Stuart Sims, welcome back,
What
brother.
what
Welcome back.
up?
You're like here every week. Like you're like the most repeated guest on the whole podcast. I guess I'm not tired of you yet.
You're a sexy man, Brent. I can't stay away.
That's what I hear. That's what I hear. Hey man, let's talk capitalism. We were back and forth a little bit about I'm a free market guy. You know that. I'm a libertarian. I think it's cool. I don't like interference in the markets, but you seem to claim that there's some scaling problems with the free markets, and I want to hear your take, man.
Well, I mean, the scaling problem is, you know how I view this. I view it as sort of a biological, social organism kind of idea, and every single species has a scaling limit beyond which its social protocols no longer function. That's just a feature of every single species on planet Earth. Human social organisms are biological organisms. So therefore, they have a scaling limit. We're not different. We can get all smart. Maybe if we had AI, we could figure out how to hack that. But just generally speaking, as a sort of a prior, there is a scaling limit I mean, you're going to lose functionality, or you're going to have to create more homogeny amongst the groups. The bigger it gets, the more homogenous the groups have to be, or you're going to have problems. You're not going to have a good economy because you're going to have groups that are too different from one another to do business with each other. Basically, it's like Muslims and Christians or whatever. I mean, yeah, I mean, if you get too big, you're going to start having that problem. You're gonna introduce pathology into that capitalist ecosystem. That's kind of a general rundown of what I mean.
Got it. And I think you're looking at this thing oppositely. You have this inverted. So when you talk about groups, I understand that when it comes to tribe, right? The social organisms, right? Like there's a scaling problem there for sure, but I don't see it in the market. And I think if you would look at this through the FEP lens, free energy principle lens,
Here we go.
the and I've spent a little time thinking about this. The price signal is a Bayesian weighting system, right? It doesn't require top down control, right? So you don't have to have the scale. This is scale invariant, I believe. Pricing is right. Like people want to trade, they want to exchange with each other, and price is just a data point. It's a signal, right? And it's updating. So basically, the market is like a Markov blanket, right? Like you have this sort of uh, bottom up updating and minimization of surprise, right? Because
Hmm.
you have a price being a signal, right? So there's a supply and there's a demand. And if I think that timber is really cheap, and all of a sudden the price goes up, that's a signal that, oh, that's actually scarce. I need to update my priors, right? And this is happening in a distributed way everywhere all of the time. And I think the defect in the system, the scaling problem, is a result of an error that we make cognitively in assuming that we have to have top down control. Everybody has got to be the same. We have to be all completely homogenous in order to engage in a market. I don't believe that at all.
Well, you know, human beings, when they become upset with each other, have a tendency to run over and start killing each other. That's
For
just sort
sure.
of a monkey principle, right? So, if you get big enough, you're going to have groups that are going to run over and kill the other one, especially if there's no, big daddy with a big stick and, the police functions and all that. That's going to happen, which means you're going to create sort of. I always think of you ever study much about the Scottish clan wars, the Scottish clans?
Not too much, no.
Dude, the Campbells and the McDougalls, and they had these blood feuds, and that's a little bitty area with like 25 clans, and for centuries they were all at each other. So they saw if a McDougal saw a Campbell, they had a blood obligation to kill him. That just has to happen once, and then your capitalist system that is you think so wonderful is over. I mean, and if you get too big, that's going to happen. It's not if, it's going to. So what I'm saying is scale. increases the probability of pathology within that the interactions of those social organisms. The bigger it gets, the more chance there are for pathology. So there's a scaling limit, just like there is for any other species on Earth. And the market is basically the it is the cognition at the scale of the social organism. The market is what's going on in the economy at the scale of the social. It's all of us thinking. That's when you're looking at the market. Actually, you're looking at what we used to think. I mean, when you see the market, that's what happened yesterday. Those price adjustments are sort of telling you what happened yesterday. But it's a form of cognition. It's a form of social organism scale cognition. You know,
We don't
and
disagree there. So I don't disagree with any of that. What I think you're failing to consider is and this people oftentimes miss this because it's a paradigm shift, it's a reframe, is that the functions you're talking about, which everybody understands we need, policing, right? And I don't mean policing the way it's done in the socialist United States of America, where they're gonna make a bunch of money throwing people in jail for victimless crimes and all this sort of largesse that we see now and this evil shit. I'm talking about basics: protection of person, protection of property, right? And then there's dispute resolution, right? Like because you mentioned people like fucking kill each other. At a certain point, the monkeys get angry. They want to, you rip me off. I need to have some sort of way to resolve the disputes, right?
yeah.
And I think that the failure mode is misunderstanding that can be a market function as well, because it's a service, right? It's like service like anything else. There's nothing special about protection of person, protection of property, and dispute resolution that requires a government. We have to. I mean, it's just so silly to be like, we need a Leviathan. We need this monolith that pays no price for being wrong, in charge of a very important service like policing and dispute resolution. So I think that might be a mistake that you're making, is not viewing this as a market, potentially market driven service.
And the mistake I think you're making is not realizing that once you scale up far enough, that sort of scale representative, like a government, is necessary for interact. I mean, okay, do this for me. Explain to me in your libertarian dream, or I mean, your dream, your ideal capitalist society. How does that function? I mean, we talking about like little shires, like the hobbits and all. I mean, what are we talking about here? I mean, if you had to snap your fingers or bibbity bobbity boo, what would that look like? I mean, I can't really address what you're talking about because it's still in my head. I really have no idea how you envision this.
Yeah, because it breaks people's brain, because it's a
I'm not gonna
paradigm
break my
shift.
brain.
Well, no, it breaks most people's brain, because we're used to living in this world where private property isn't respected and individuals don't actually have any rights. The government is it's a monopolistic. They have a monopoly on the initiation of violence. They can initiate violence within a geographic region, and they're the arbiter, and they're the final say in resolving any dispute. Right? Like for 300 million fucking people in the United States right now, that's the way things are set up. You have to sort of flip your brain to think about, like, well, how would this work in a free society? And this is a thing that's difficult about having these conversations, is that most of the time, and I love the way you phrase this question, it's very sophisticated with respect to the way it's normally posed, which is like, I want to know how this is going to work exactly. And that's the fucked up thing about markets, is that the brilliance of the collective, right? I know that you know this stuff, like from a Bayesian weighting perspective, it's all these little minute data points, these micro adjustments. That's one of the brilliances of the price system, is like these are all happening, and you can't tell what the market's going to bring forward. But if you say, like, if you can just separate things, for example, like, would you prefer the way that the DMV operates, or would you prefer the way that a private business operates? It's like the government pays no, there's no price that they pay for being wrong. Like literally the bar for government updating is like somebody's going to show up with guns and threaten to overthrow the government. Like that's basically what our entire system of governance is based on. Is like, you don't like it, well, you can reinstitute a new government or abolish it altogether. That's what our founding documents say. And so if you look at this and say, well, do I want the DMV, or do I want, like the way your cell
Yes.
phone is constructed? Is there something that the government can do that would not be a million times worse than what the market could offer? And so people don't like the fact that I can't prescribe exactly the way a market, like the new services and options and available things that would emerge spontaneously, bottom up. You can't predict that, and that's unsatisfying to people
No, I
because
just mean the government I mean, how is the architecture of the society structure? Are we talking the Amish?
no, no,
I
no,
mean,
no, no,
we can have technology, but are we talking about small populations that are, connected with each other, that are producing something, widgets or whatever, and we have a bunch of these, and all of them sort of trade with each other and stuff. I mean, what are we talking about here? Are you still talking about enormous cities? Are there still in your ideal libertarian utopia? Is there cities with 5 million people?
Yeah. So first of all, I hate it when it's called utopia. Utopia doesn't exist on the
Well,
government side,
I'm not.
or
I don't mean
I know,
that.
no.
I don't mean
I'm
that pejoratively. I just mean like if you could make it perfect. If it was like in your head, you have this idea, and I really don't understand what it is exactly. Exactly what are you
for
talking about?
for sure, and exact is difficult, but like I said, because I want freedom, I want people to be free, and I think you have the government pushes things around. They push people into these configurations that would not exist in a free market, like cities, for example. Like we have sort of through government subsidies and a whole bunch of other things created this centralized section of farmland where these mega corporations are producing all the food, and then that allows people who otherwise, right, might have been productively engaged in farming in a more decentralized way. They've all aggregated into cities, and so we've all been on top of each other now in these hyper concentrated cities where, as you know, monkeys like to beat each other upside the head, where there's violence and there's a whole bunch of pathologies, I think, that have, yes, it's a second order effect of the government system that we've had, right? So I can't say exactly how it would be, but I can say a couple of things.
Okay.
In For example, in a market system, if I want to have my person, my family, my property protected, I could engage with any number of providers, right? So you can have provider 1 through 10 showing up and saying, "I'm here to serve you, customer, and here's our best offering," and you can then evaluate across the 10 and say, based on my price point and the services offered, I'm going to go with this because I think it's going to provide me the best coverage for the minimal price. And then the providers have all sorts of mechanisms they could deploy. For example, as a consumer, I might say, with this provider, I'm willing to pay a lower cost in exchange for less privacy, right? So this company, there's all this advanced technology, Internet of Things. They could surveil the shit out of me and my family. I want to know exactly where my children are, and guess what? You can watch them every fucking where they go, and I want to know if some crackhead is coming after my kid or Donald Trump or whoever might be pursuing my child with nefarious purposes. I might say that, right? Other people might value privacy more, and they might be willing to pay a higher price, right? So there's a variety, right? This is the way the market works. In every other aspect of our life, we understand that we can get the shittiest flip phone, or we can get the latest iPhone, right? Like there's a whole range of offerings that are on the table, and so we can say, from a market perspective, from a service perspective, like, okay, this segment is covered by this group of actors, these companies that are trying to provide services. Cool. Now there's the second component, which people like to ask about, is, well, how do you resolve disputes? And there's plenty of ways to do it, and it's not going to be one size fits all. Just that's the deeply unsatisfying part. I can't just dictate the way it's going to be, but there will be companies that, matter of fact, they have these today. I don't know if you know this, Stuart, but the vast majority of civil litigation is not resolved in the courts. They pass it off to the arbiters, right? So they have arbitration.
Arbitration.
Yeah, yeah. And these are private companies that specialize in getting the people that have a disagreement to come to an agreement, right? So you could, for example, Stuart and I, we have this contract, we're going to do X, Y, and Z thing, and Stuart never pays his bill, right? But you could have in the contract, like, if we disagree, instead of beating each other upside the head, we can say we both agree to bow to company ABC, and they're going to be the ones that help us to resolve our dispute. And we agree up front, right, that it's going to be binding upon both of us. Whatever the agreement of that arbiter is, we agree going up front. That's the way it's going to be. And that arbiter, they make their money by being trustworthy, right? Like we're the honest people. We're the folks that are not corrupt. We're gonna adjudicate fairly, and they're reputation based. And there's going to be other competitors that are going to be like, hey, if company A fucks up, company B is going to tell you about it. That's the way the market works today. You know, these companies, they want their market share. They're going to attack their competition. They're going to advertise against them. They're going to say we're better, and the other company is going to say we're better, and that keeps people honest. Where the government, like, they pay no penalty for being wrong. They can just be like, no, fuck it. We have these judges. They're going to
Okay, I
judge
get
the
it.
way. You get
I
it?
get it. But all right. Well, let me try to explain to you sort of my view of this. I spent about 10 years of my life studying primatology. It's the psychology of primates. And primates are extraordinarily violent. All primates. I mean, they will patrol their little area, and if they encounter primates from another tribe, they rip them apart and eat them alive and torture them and all sorts of stuff. Primates are extraordinarily violent creatures. We are primates, okay? When you have, let's say you have a group of Amish trading with another group of Amish, 100 miles away, you don't just want any group of monkeys going over there trying to trade. You send somebody who has the capacity to trade and keep control, has emotional regulation, who's going to be able to not antagonize the other group of monkeys. And that's why you always send, a salesman, somebody who's sort of politics, somebody who has that capacity. When you get, let's say, 100 groups of Amish together, and they sort of create a consortium, they have to create a sort of body that represents all of them. They can go to the other people that are selling things and not make the monkeys angry and make them want to tear us apart and kill us all, right? This is why government happens. That's it. That's all. That's the reason government happens, because groups of monkeys dealing with each other need people out front that represent the social organism, sort of the cognition of the social organism. They can interact with other monkeys and not create war. Because if you just send some asshole over there, to negotiate or to talk to them, almost half the time you're going to end up with them throwing their poop at each other, and then war happens, right? So that's why governments develop. Okay. The farther you scale that, the bigger that government has to be. That's the scaling problem. And the problem with scale is that the bureaucracy hides evil. The bureaucracy hides the evil monkeys. They can hide in that bureaucracy.
I
It
would say they
conceals them.
attract the evil monkeys.
And it attracts the evil monkeys because they want to be able to hide. It's camouflage. It creates a predatory ecosystem there at the top where all these predatory monkeys can go and, live out their stupid little monkey fantasies. And right now we have a bunch of monkeys that want to kill all the monkeys. So my point is the larger you scale that general principle, the more chance you have of violence, the more chance you have of violent people hiding within that bureaucracy, because you have to have a bureaucracy that interfaces between capitalist economies like China and America. You have to have a group of them. And that the economy is $1 trillion a year, you need a big bureaucracy to handle that. The bigger you get, the worse it gets, the more these people are not held accountable because they're the ones in charge. They decide who's accountable. They decide if they're accountable, not the people, because they have so much power. So this is just the point I was making about the ant beds. The whole world isn't an ant bed is because the protocols by which ants function cannot be scaled beyond a certain size. They can't create, 100-mile ant beds. Human beings cannot create an economy that beyond a certain scale is not pathological. And this economy we have is pathological. I mean, we've seen this with
No disagreement there, man.
I mean, you're seeing this with fifth generation warfare. How do you find out who is poisoning people when you're dealing with 8 billion people and 10 different economies and enormous trades going on, hundreds of thousands of trades a day? They can slip that in there. They can start killing people. They can drop bodies for 10 years and nobody knows it's even happening. That's the scaling problem. You cannot scale this up beyond a certain level without introducing at least the potential for that in a long enough time that it's going to happen. Some monkey's going to get mad at another monkey and it's going to happen. So, yeah, I mean,
No question there. Like, there's going to be disagreements, and there will always. That's why I always hate the utopia thing, because anytime you deal with humans, as you know, you're going to be dealing with problems. It's going to be nothing but problems all the way down. But here's one thing: you're correct. Humans are incredibly violent, and studies show that the government attracts that type of person. And so I've always bristled a little bit at that claim that people are going to do bad things, so we need a government to have like the ultimate control, like the monopoly on, like, literally you have the ability to murder peaceful people and assume that everything's going to go fine. That's going to just attract the most pathological, and that's what we see. You look at the government right now, it's full of shitheads, it's full of the most evil people you have ever seen. I mean, look at Epstein.
Yeah.
This whole thing, we've got a bunch of satanic pedophiles that are basically running the government, and everyone's looking around like they're shocked, and I'm looking around like, yeah, that's exactly what happens when you give that group of people that type of power. I
It's the way
think
it's
it's
always been. It's the way it's always been. It's no different.
so.
It's just not. The reason it's different now is because it's at a much larger scale. And that's why it's that much worse. The more you scale it up, the more you intensify that propensity. That's the scaling problem. So, like I was talking about with you and Sim, it's just a problem of scale. All these things you hate, all these things you're upset about, trace it back down. It's just scale. That's it. If we could break this, reduce this down to just a couple of thousand people having an economy, that'd be wonderful. It'd be like hobbits in the Shire. And if somebody becomes a malignant asshole, we're all like, who's the malignant asshole? Oh, it's that asshole. And you get him. And you do whatever you do to him. And then, we're fine again until the next asshole comes along. But when you have 8 billion people in a global economy, you can't find the asshole. Right now, we have no idea who the assholes are. I mean, we know who the
Well,
assholes are, but who is the real people that are doing this? We really can't say. Is it Israel? Is it the Rothschilds? Is it, who is it? We don't know. It's because this thing is so big. The predators hide in the bureaucracies. They hide in all of those complexities. The scale of it creates a camouflage for malignancy, right? That's the
uh,
reason you hate this so much
what's
is the scale.
what's hilarious is we both agree on this, right? And I think this is the biggest argument in my favor, is that government is absolutely opaque. So this is kind of like that Markov blanket thing. Like, we're trying to infer what's happening behind the curtain, and we're getting these data points. But as you know, fifth generation warfare. There's psyops everywhere. There's misinformation, disinformation. There's all this crazy fuckery that's going on, and you cannot infer as a citizen what's going on behind the curtain. All you know is it's really, really bad, right? And so my
Yeah.
argument would be, okay, well, that's the pathology right there. And so if you had a more decentralized system, you could find the shitheads easier. For example, let me give you a real world example. When eBay first launched and PayPal was launching, they were wondering how much money they were going to have to spend resolving disputes. And they found out they actually had to ramp down a whole bunch of this enforcement stuff because the reputational score that was kept on PayPal and eBay, it allowed people, there's a bad actor that can get you once, but they're banned from the platform forever, right? And
Right.
so we have the technology, and I agree with you, by the way. A lot of this stuff evolved from necessity. Anything that human beings evolved as a structure was typically put forward to solve a problem, or at least ostensibly take a stab at solving a problem. I
Right.
think over time, government just morphed into, I think this is the problem that I think we agree on. At scale, everything broke down. It attracted a bunch of shitheads. It evolved over time. It
Yep.
got bigger and bigger and more authoritarian. And then the people were just kind of like trapped into the system, which is where I see we are now. We're in the situation like, what the fuck do we do about this? Everyone knows it's corrupt. Everyone knows that it's disgusting and evil, but nobody can do anything about
We
it.
created a monster. We created this monster, and now all of us are like, oh shit, we're like Frankenstein's monster. What the fuck do we do now? We got this monster running around doing monstrous shit. And we're all looking at each other and like, what do we do? And nobody knows what to do. I mean, it's monstrous. And I mean, the only thing to do is all rise up like a bunch of monkeys and just tear it all down. And hopefully whatever comes out of that is better.
Which
But
history shows us is not likely. It's
no,
you. It's
exactly why I don't think that's a good idea. What comes out is going to be the strongest, biggest, meanest monkey shithead, and he's going to create his own little monkey utopia or whatever he thinks is good. So there is no good solution to this. So we just have to manage it, micromanage it, and try to guide it towards change this big ass ship's course and try to change head it somewhere else. And that's about all we can do. That's in my opinion. I mean,
well,
even
Philip.
if we could kill every single, like I snap my fingers and kill every single politician and elite and person that's causing the problems in the world, what then? What's going to happen then? What you
Exactly.
think like the best people are going to get in charge and all of a sudden everything's going to be fine? The same thing's going to happen again. It's because it's the principle that's the problem. It's this principle that we can get a bunch of monkeys and give them that much power, and then you know think it's going to be fine. If we have a constitution, they're going to follow that. Like a bunch of shit written down on the paper is going to, oh, the monkeys are going to follow the scratch on the paper. They're not going to follow it. As soon as they cannot, they won't. You know, and the other thing that I was thinking the other day is, you know, you think about how did this happen to the intelligence community? How did the intelligence community get captured by criminals? You know, in order to fight criminals, you have to think like criminals. You know, and one time, like, you ever seen that show 24 with Kiefer Sutherland?
Once or twice, yeah. That was big in
And
the
he has
Bush
to,
era, right?
there's always some scene in every season where he goes to over the line. You know, there's a bomb about to destroy the city with, you know, whatever, and, you know, whatever. And he has to torture somebody to get the answers out of them, right? And he feels fully justified because, you know, that's one person and we have a city of 5 million people. I'm going to do it. I'm going to pull out his freaking teeth one by one until he tells me where the goddamn bomb is. And he, you know, but the thing is, if you do that long enough, eventually you're in law, as CIA, intelligence, any police officer, it's going to happen. You're going to cross the line. You're going to do something that you know you shouldn't be doing. And if you don't get punished for that, if nobody steps up and says you shouldn't have done that, you're being punished. You're looking around like, why isn't nobody punishing me? Oh, I'm just going to do it again then, and do it again. And it's that creep. It's that creep, you know. And the CIA has never been held accountable. They've never been held accountable by anybody. So this is the creep. And now we see what the result of it. We have this completely possessed entity that has no accountability from anybody. That's, you know, whatever they're doing, eating babies. I don't know if that's true or not, but it could be. You know, monkeys will go that far. They will eat babies. You know, monkeys, we've seen it. So, you know, I just think that human nature is such that even if we could snap our fingers and kill every evil human being on earth, we'd still have to figure out what to do because we can't do this again. This doesn't work, right?
I feel like you're making my argument for me, man.
No, you have agreed that it won't work at scale. Your argument is scale
No,
doesn't matter, and you
no, no,
just
no, no.
agreed that scale matters.
With respect to a government, yes, like that can't scale. That breaks, right? So what I'm advocating for is decentralization,
But you
right?
cannot
So
specify what you mean by that.
okay,
What does
let me
the
try.
architecture of this decentralization look like?
Let me try. So let's
Okay.
talk about functions, right? So we talked about policing, right? So we need protection of person and property. Cool, check. We have that one category. We have market forces. They're going to show up when there's, because obviously it's demand, human safety and protection of property. That's just a market a need. It's a demand signal. So anytime there's a demand signal, market will provide supply. So cool. So these market actors will show up. They're going to protect me and my family and my shit. Cool, easy peasy. And the great thing about this, which is I think you're not appreciating, is with the problem you just outlined with government, is that what do you do about it? Like here, we're all just going to overthrow them. Well, guess what? In a market, you know how we solve that problem, Stuart? Is like, I'm canceling my service. I'm going with a competitor. With government, when you have a monopoly, there's no competitor. There's no recourse for you. There's no alternative options. We have a monolith covering 300 million people that's forcibly top down telling you what services you're going to take. And if you don't want them, guess what? You still have to pay for them or we're going to throw you in a cage. That's fucked up. I prefer to be like, if you're not providing a good service to me, I would like to fire you and hire somebody else. Some other greedy capitalist who wants my money is providing a lower cost, better service. I'm going with them. And I want to be fickle. I want to be like, you know what, next week I'm going to this other company over here because they're kicking ass and they're really doing a good job. Or the company that I subscribe to is doing some heinous shit and it gets caught in some scandal and, you know, gets caught doing some evil shit. Like, you're talking about hiding those shitheads in the bureaucracy. The bigger the bureaucracy gets and the more opacity by law that you erect, like the chances of you identifying a bad actor and then making a counter decision, like those get minimized, right? So I think from an FEP perspective, having those Markov blankets a lot closer to you, right, and a lot smaller in size and scale, that's a feature, not a bug.
Well, the beauty of the FEP architecture is that it's designed to evolve, right?
Correct.
It's always following gradients of evolution, cognitive evolution. That's sort of that's the governing principle of the entire universe. Is everything that exists is on a gradient of cognitive evolution, right? So if we're
We're
going to
always
set up,
updating. Yeah, we're always
yeah,
updating.
always updating, always creating a better model to make better predictions, and that creates these gradients of cognitive evolution, right? So if you want to follow the, you know, the best architecture that we know to exist, which is the architecture of the universe. That's how you set up your economy. You need to have an architecture that is designed to evolve. It's designed intentionally to evolve with circumstance, to become smarter, to update. Not a constitution. I mean, the Constitution kind of updates because we have amendments, but it's so hard. And updating should be hard. So, the Constitution is kind of a really primitive idea of a belief updating. We have these basic model of how we want things to be, and if we really, really, really all agree, we can update that with amendments. So it is kind of Bayesian in that respect, but it needs to be a lot better than that. It needs to be guarded. The capacity to capture that apparatus that updates beliefs, like our governments have been captured, is too easy. We need a very powerful immune response that creates an almost impossibility of that happening. And that's really what we're lacking right now, is nobody's watching, the watchers. Something has to be governing the monkeys. It doesn't matter how honest you think they are, they're just monkeys. And they can be compromised, they can be captured, they can be, blackmailed or whatever. And once that happens, you're fucked, because you don't see it. When did this happen? I mean, when did we want to say it happened with the JFK thing, but it had to have happened before the JFK thing, because they got together and killed JFK. So it happened before that.
Oh, for
You
sure.
know, I was listening to a politician talk the other day, and an old guy, I forget who it was, who was alive back then, and he said the CIA was never accountable. They pretended to be, but no president ever said no. No president said no until JFK, and JFK said, "Hey, I don't like that," or whatever, and they, got pissed at him and blew his head off. But this sort of thing has to be pulled out of the dark, really examined and talked about, and we need something better. I mean, the Constitution was a good idea for a bunch of people 250 years ago. I think it was a really good idea. It's almost Bayesian in its
Agreed.
conception.
By
Yeah.
the way, I would agree. I hate the Constitution. It's fucking evil. But when it's always compared to what? In the world of philosophy, it's always compared to what? And the shit that came before it was way worse. And so that was a step forward. And this is where I'm trying to get you to, is I believe the free market, as I perceive it to be an improvement. Like you said, our cognitive apparatus is constantly improving, and we found out what doesn't work. This fucking experiment did not work. It failed, right? And so I'm trying to propose something that I think is in alignment with FEP and ethical principles, that the individual should determine what they want, and they do it by the price system. It's there's supply and there's demand. Everything in the entire world is supply and demand based. You need something, therefore you either do it yourself. You decide, I'm going to invest my time and resource and energy in building the thing. Like, I'm going to do an off grid compound. That's just me. I'm just going to build it myself. Or I'm going to trade something in exchange for this thing. And everything out there is market based. And I think it's a mistake to look at this and say, well, no, there's some things that are exempt from market forces, and we have to have this violent government sort of force us into these little corrals where we eliminate our choice. I think we're missing something. That price signal is very, very powerful, and it bubbles up. It's so FEP, and I think it's nested, and it's scale invariant. I think you can scale it as much as you want, because trading is very simple at the end of the day. Like, if I want to exchange with Stuart, it's super fucking simple, especially in today's world. I can set up an online store that I can make sure the payment processes. We have crypto, we have blockchain ledgers, we can have smart contracts. I don't know if you've heard of smart contracts before.
Yeah.
We
I
can
have.
agree up front, and it doesn't matter if the trade executes, the money transfers, end of story. There's no need to have dispute resolution, because the shit just happens, objectively. We can look at the ledger, we can see that it executed.
But
There,
I mean, Brent, what you're talking about isn't going to work long term at scale unless there's something that mitigates the monkey problem.
well,
We
hold on,
have
hold
to
on.
have.
The monkey problem is violence, right? And so what you
Well, the
need to
monkey problem is that you have a bunch of groups that decide, hey, all our interests need to come together, because we have these other group of monkeys that are getting too powerful, so they get all together, and then the other monkeys like, fuck you, so they get more monkeys, and then all of a sudden you get a bunch of monkeys fighting. I mean, what mitigates that problem? I don't know, and it's not free market capitalism. I mean,
Oh, I disagree. I disagree
What
because
are you saying? They're not going to fight if it's free markets? I mean, I don't
no,
understand what you mean.
people may fight, but most of the time, fighting violence is a last resort because it's very costly, right? Like it's costly.
Oh,
Well, no, no,
I mean, people get so angry they will, they'll try to kill everybody even if they think they're going to lose because they're so mad. Human perversity, human out. I mean, all it takes is one psycho to
for
get in
sure,
charge of a big group of people and convince them that all those people over there need to die. It just takes one time. And
for
on a
sure. But
long
what
enough timeline, that's going to happen. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. If you don't have an idea how to mitigate that, then what are we talking about? That's going to happen.
and I think the mitigation is the fact that war is expensive. It costs a lot of fucking money. And in today's, hold on a second, in
How does that
today's,
solve the problem?
well, first of all, in today's paradigm, is it profitable or unprofitable to go to war?
For some people, it's very profitable. For Lockheed Martin, it's
Exactly.
very profitable.
Exactly. If you're a DoD contractor, you make money hand over fist. But as a country, I'm not for this, but we're taking encircling the United States of America as a whole. Is the United States more prosperous or is it poorer after the last week of bombing the shit out of Iran?
Oh, I don't think this money thing is even real anymore since they're printing it. So I
Well,
don't think your question really
for,
matters. It's only real for
well,
me and you. For those guys, money's not even real, except when they
but
spend it.
resources are. So let's be clear here. Is like we're talking about productive resources. So
Right.
there are raw materials. They've been combined by some company. Now they're making bombs and shit. Raytheon or Lockheed. Like they're those are real. Like those assets are real. So from a so from a wealth standpoint, is the country net richer or net poorer after bombing the shit out of Iran for a week?
The amount of oil we have in the United States, we could fuel our entire economy with the oil we have here. We don't need
Yeah,
the
yeah, no, but the
global.
oil stays put, right? That's already there. That's baked into the pie. But so everything within the boundary of the United States is the total natural resources, and those natural resources put together a whole shit ton of military machinery and death rays and whatever the fuck they've got, and it's getting expended. Like right now, we're like $10 billion worth of expenditures, and obviously this is
But
not
that
just
doesn't
bombs.
matter to the people making the decisions because they're
No,
not touched by that.
I
The,
know
the,
that's not my point. I'm saying as a
what's
whole,
your
we're
point?
talking about groups now. So the group called the United States of America, all of us citizens, are we richer or poorer in aggregate as a result of going to war?
Well, of course we're poor. We just dropped
Yeah.
$100 billion worth of bombs in like 2 days.
Some people, a very tiny segment, are going to get much, much richer, and everybody else in aggregate gets poorer, right? So we've transferred wealth from everybody else to this tiny, tiny group of people that makes money off of murdering people in war, right? In a free market, like it's understood, like anytime you have to expend any sort of resources defending yourself, even if it's defensive war, that costs money. Everybody's paying. If I'm part of a group that's like, hey, I'm paying you to defend me, and your job is to be the baddest ass motherfuckers that are there, you are going to let's say you are the military force, for example. Let's say you're charged with protecting some geographical area. You are going to, because what do capitalists do? They want to provide the most effective service they can at the lowest cost possible. And every time they shoot somebody, blow up somebody, whatever, it is a cost. It is a drain on their profitability. And they're going to have to pass that on to customers in the form of higher prices. Customers don't like higher prices. We want lower prices. So that market demand, that like I'm telling you, that from an FEP perspective, these updating of priors, right? We're constantly updating, constantly updating.
Okay,
That
so
signal.
I ask you again, how do you fix the problem of the people that have captured, when you have a social dominance hierarchy, like monkeys self-organized into these social dominance hierarchies, you're going to have a group of monkeys that are really, really greedy. They're going to capture the top of the dominance hierarchy. How does anything you say going to change that? You haven't been able to explain to me any sort of way that's going to change by your idea of free markets.
Well, I don't.
Eventually, you're going to have the meanest, smartest, most ruthless monkeys. They're going to capture the police functions that you talked about. They're going to capture that. The way the money, the information you get about how the money's spent, they're going to capture that. They're going to want to be in charge of how you get information. They're going to capture the information flow. I mean, how nothing you're saying is changing any of that. So I don't
I
understand what we're talking about here.
I disagree. And so,
Well,
first of all,
explain it to me then. I really want to know what you mean.
I don't think that there's going to be any way to flatten hierarchies. I think, the matter of fact, they might get steeper,
I
right?
don't
Because
think we should. Because
no, no, no.
I
I
think
think hierarchies are good. I think
no,
hierarchy.
I think hierarchies are the way biological organisms function.
I'll make the claim. I
Every
think they're good.
every well, whether they're good or not is sort of beside the point. I think they're good too, but they're good because that's how everything inside of us is designed to self-organize. So the only
Correct.
way not to have hierarchies, to have this sort of flat thing like communism, which is still a hierarchy, it's just a 1-2. It's everybody and then
You're
shitheads,
right. Right.
right? I mean, but it's still a hierarchy. But human beings are going to self-organize in dominance hierarchies. That's just monkey primate politics. It's going to happen no matter what you do. The question before us is, how do you minimize this tendency at scale of the top of the hierarchy being captured by the worst monkeys? And nothing you're saying addresses that problem.
I think it does. I just haven't
How?
touched on it
How?
yet. So I think in a free market system, the only power that a company has or a service provider has, a capitalist has, is delighting their customers. Right? Like you can't like a government said, you can put a gun in somebody's face and force them to pay you taxes. But in a free market, you have to provide, you're competing, right? So competition is what keeps the shitheads from rising
What
too
you're
far to the top.
describing is going to end up with something like BlackRock. If you poof said there's no government, suddenly BlackRock's the government because they will aggregate all this power together. I don't understand what you mean. It's like you have this idea in your head that it's going to work some other way, but you understand what I'm saying, but somehow that doesn't translate into the fact that even if you had this perfect free market, you still have monkeys in the free market. This isn't a mathematical problem. You have monkeys in the market, which monkeys are going to do what monkeys do. They're going to form a BlackRock. They're going to aggregate all the power together, and suddenly you're governed by BlackRock. They are the government that you don't want because you've removed this other government. It's going to end up the same way every single time, no matter what we do, if we do this at scale, because these predators will hide at scale. They're just going to hide. They're going to pretend they're doing things and they're not. By the time you figure it out, it's a year later and there's nothing you can do about it. And they got too much power to stop them anyway. I mean, so I really want to understand how what you're saying is a better solution. I hate the government too. I think it sucks. But I don't see that if you can snap our fingers and get rid of the government, BlackRock's in charge.
Okay, first of all, I don't want that. And I've actually been asked that several times. Like, well, if you could just magically make the government disappear tomorrow, would you? I'm like, fuck no, that's insanity. Like, and this is why I'm making the arguments, right? I think that we need to update our model. Like, we need to update our priors. We need to look at this and say, okay, this doesn't work. What potentially could work? So I'm trying to engage in a conversation. I'm not saying I have it all figured out, but I'm trying to at least make the case. If we move to a different state, if we evolve to a different model, it's going to require a conversation. It's going to require intentionality. Like you have to intentionally transition somewhere else. Otherwise, like you said, if the government, number one, if we overthrew it, which is stupid, or if it just collapses and we're a failed nation state, that's terrible. That's Somalia. That's just violence and monkey shit like you're talking about. I'm trying to advocate for like, hey guys, maybe we can update now. Maybe look at the technology that's available since the 1776 and let's like, and I'm not saying even wholesale change. Like, let's maybe take one thing. Can we take policing? Can we try to experiment with that in the free market, see if that works? Cool. Let's bolt that on. I want to start talking about like how we can, what's changed from 1776 till now? I would say a fucking lot. Now, how can we look at what's available to us and the mistakes that we know that we've made in the past and do it differently? And I think unless we do that intentional exercise, it's just going to be a shit show. I think we at least agree what exists today is not fucking working. It didn't work. It failed. So it's like, okay, so it failed. Now what, Stuart?
It's the same problem we've always had. It's just global. With I don't know if you've ever read about the Peloponnesian Wars, the Greek wars and Athens and everything. I mean, they thought that was the great way to do it, is just have city states. Keep the little cultures, Sparta and Athens, and all the shit. Even then, same thing happened. Shitheads get in charge and they go kill each other. I mean, this problem is repeated throughout history. It always happens. It's the human condition, and our challenge in 2026 is, okay, we get it. We see that. What do we do about it? Because we don't want to live in a world where it's boom bust forever. And the reason it's boom bust, I think, is because human existence has no meaning. There's no meaning to any of it. What are we doing here? Well, what is the purpose of any of us being? Was it to make money? Why? So we can have better shit? Why? I mean, that's really what we need to be looking for, because if we could discover some reason human beings are here and share a meaning to existence, that would unify us. I don't know what the fuck that would be, but that's sort of like, as an idea, something that could work. The other idea is using AI as a sort of manager of human dominance hierarchies. But then what you got is
Not
you
gonna
got
work.
every single monkey on the planet trying to capture that AI, and eventually it's going to happen. So I mean, how do you change human nature? I mean, that's really what we're talking about.
You
And
can't. I don't think. I don't think you
no, and I
can.
don't think you can change human nature unless, like I said, all of us can become convinced that there's a meaning to it, like Star Trek. And that was like the dream that Roddenberry had. And he was a psycho. But I mean, his idea about, a future where there's no money and we all just realize we're all human beings in this giant, ocean of space with all these, things, and sort of brought people together with this meaning to our existence. Without meaning, you're gonna have nihilism. You're gonna have existentialism. They're gonna have people that don't give a shit anymore about how many people they kill or who they hurt. And those kind of people are going to capture governments because they're ruthless and they're willing to do anything. So I agree with you that we have a problem. I don't know if libertarianism is sort of an expression or a realization of that problem, because I've talked to a lot of libertarians, and like you, I say, okay, what is exactly this architecture you're talking about? They're all like you. They don't know. They just know this one sucks, and they don't like government and they want something else. And so do I. But I mean, as I have said repeatedly, scale is the primary problem. When you have this many monkeys, the monkey problem gets bigger. The more monkeys, the bigger the monkey problem. And it's that simple. The equation is that simple. The more monkeys you got interacting, the bigger the monkey problem. So, we can try to create all the solutions we want. Human beings are apex predators. We are extraordinarily dangerous animals. Extraordinary. I mean, I was talking to somebody the other day about this. I mean, have you ever watched people in the Olympics? That's the human
Sometimes, yeah.
apex predator. That's that preternatural athleticism. Imagine 100,000 years ago, lions would hide from groups of humans. We were terrifying as fuck. We ruled the earth, and we were really terrifying apex predators. And now we're all civilized and lives in these houses, and we think we're all these, sweet, nice, cute communities. No, we are terrifying animals. And until we realize that and start to realize that if we create systems, the most terrifying apex predators are going to capture that, because that is our nature. And the bigger it gets, the more of those there are and the more chances it's going to happen. So scale is the problem. It's the primary problem. Every single problem you're describing, all the problems with government, can be traced back down to the fact that we have grown beyond the scale by which human protocols function. We no longer can function at this scale. So I mean, elites want to downsize the population. They see the problem, and the way they're doing it is psycho. But I don't disagree that scale is the problem. It obviously is. I don't think it's out. I would love to hear an argument that refutes that, because I don't think there is one.
No, no, I don't necessarily disagree with you. I just think that decentralization solves a scale problem, right? If you allow people to be free and you allow them to choose what they want as far as their services and stuff, like you keep things local. It's more of a like you're always talking about local ontology.
I don't
This
know
is
what you mean.
meaning that
No,
okay,
I mean, are
I
you talking about Amish? I mean, when you
no no
say
no no
keep
no no
things
no
local,
no.
I don't know what you mean.
For example,
Are you still
like
talking about a global economy? I mean, what are you talking about?
well, no, because nothing. There's not going to be like this global free market, right? Like everything's going to have to be bounded somewhere. There's going to be governments that exist. With if a free market generally allows people to purchase from whoever they want to, and most of the time it's going to be local people near them, right? Like that's who they're purchasing from. For example, Why are you shaking your head?
No, it's the Shire. Oh yeah, I mean this guy has a dairy farm and he trades with the guy who makes glass. He trades with the iron worker. Yeah, that would be beautiful. I
No,
would
no, no.
love to go
I'm
back to
not
that.
saying that because capitalism thrives on scale. Scaling up production. Like there's going to
The
be
people at the
centralized.
top, yeah.
No, I'm saying like if you have, I want to say, yeah, you're an egg farmer, right? Like you're a company that produces eggs, right? Like you're not going to have just a giant location. There's probably going to be a network of farms. Like I think Vital Farms is one that does this now, where it's like, hey, you have at least 150 acres, and you're going to make these eggs according to this process for us, and you're going to ship them to us, and we're going to distribute it. Like those things exist, right? But most of your things that are important, like your governance, like we talked about policing, like that's local. You can't have remote policing. I mean, I guess you could with like drones or some shit, but for the most part, if you have a policing function, these are people that live in your community, right? They might be employed by company A or company B, but they're going to be local to you. It's not going to be somebody in DC, some fucking asshole that's raping kids on an island that's dictating what your local policing looks like, right? You're going to be engaging more locally. It's going to be decentralized and it's going to be distributed. And it's not going to be monolithic and unilateral. I think that's what breaks everything. This is what causes, from an FEP perspective, society get all fucked up. Is there's no update mechanism. All these data points, there's no updating. Even though you and I are bitching on Twitter and all these 300 million people are complaining, those data points don't cause an update to the system. Do you get my point? Like
No, because the you can't, it doesn't matter if you update if the power structure becomes captured at the top by forces that are too powerful for us to fight. I mean, if every single human being in the United States right now attacked all of our government institutions, maybe we could be able to kill them all and take back the power.
no,
Maybe
no,
they have
I'm not
nuclear
talking about like,
weapons and shit. I mean, but
yeah, I'm not talking about
how
the
does that,
mechanics.
Brent? All none of this matters unless you address the problem that I'm talking about. I don't, you still think that if you decentralize a free market economy, you're not going to have the monkey problem, and you agree that you will, but you somehow don't think you will. I mean, it's like you're saying two different things.
Well, no, what I'm saying is, Stuart, it'll be better. I think this is. I'm not saying that it's going to be perfect. I reject the utopia claim. I'm saying, number one, I don't know how it could be much worse. Like what we have right now is fucking horrendous. I think that it would be probably better. That's my claim. I can't
Yeah,
see
but
if.
you say it'll be better, but then you can't specify what exactly it is, except in a very vague terms of everybody's free market and everybody has a, I mean,
Yeah. Oh,
so I
okay.
mean,
Here.
I mean, in order to have an it, you have to have some sort of a meta it that interacts with other its. And that meta it is a bunch of monkeys, so it doesn't matter what, ideas you have about how the economy could be better or human interactions could be better until we address the monkey problem. So,
Well, the
I mean,
monkey problem's intractable. We need to understand that we're solving for the monkey problem as best we can.
yeah,
That's what we're
you're
doing.
saying there's a better solution to constitutional government, but you can't specify what exactly that better solution is. It's just sort of this vague idea that free markets are better.
Yeah, yeah.
So I mean,
And here's the problem,
so
Stuart. Like,
I want to agree with you. I really do. I want to say, okay, that sounds better, but I don't know what I really don't have in my head a clear idea of what you mean.
I know, and that's the thing that breaks people's brain. It's almost like saying, like, all right, Stuart, like if you were to release prisoners, right? There's a bunch of prisoners in jail. Let's say they're there for nonviolent bullshit crimes like drug possession or something, right? These are not violent, hardened criminals. They're just people that are incarcerated forcibly against their will. And you'd say, okay, my claim is like, Stuart, they should be free. Like, just let them out. And then you're saying, yeah, but what would they do? And it's like 5,000 people. So I don't know. They're going to do a whole bunch of things. I can't tell you exactly what they're going to do. They're going to be free. They're going to make choices. They're going to, update all of their, from an FEP perspective, they're constantly going to be doing these updates, these macro, and they're all going to choose different things. People have choice. One guy's going to be a farmer. The other guy's going to go be a barber, like whatever. They're going to go do whatever they're going to do. And somebody's saying like, well, I need to know exactly what all these people are going to do. I'm like, I can't tell you that. They're free. They're going to make choices, and they're going to be better off for it. Like my claim is like they're just going to be better for being free.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you have a police function, you're going to have some sort of rules by which constrain those police functions. When you have
Correct.
a panel of monkeys that are in charge of the interface between different groups of monkeys, they're going to have constraints, which are going to be sort of laws or constitutions that control what they can and can't do. So eventually you lead back to the same shit, because
I don't think
somebody's going to
so.
get,
Because you can
dude,
choose. You
and
can
because
choose.
if you're have the power to make sure it doesn't happen, sure, but the way monkeys function over centuries, it's going to end up looking like this. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter if you think that the what you're describing is not a long-term solution. What you're describing is better than it is, but eventually you're going to end up with the monkey problem no matter what you do. And until we address the monkey problem at scale, it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't fucking matter about free markets or decentralization or balances of powers. None of it matters apparently, because the monkey problem is bigger than all of that, because we're all a bunch of monkeys, and the biological forces by which these things happen have inertia to them. And over centuries, that inertia overcomes any nonsense you put up. We're going to act like monkeys on a long enough timeline. So either you change the monkeys and become something other than monkeys, or you figure something else out. And I don't know what that other thing is. I don't know what the solution is. And believe me, I've thought about this for decades. I mean, this is something that has occupied my mind, because everybody says capitalism isn't good. It's just, the American government isn't a good government. It's better than anything else. That's what you always hear, right? What you're saying is no. Free markets are better than having a government at all. Let's just have a bunch of free markets that have local reinforcements of shit and no big government over it all. And you know what? You're probably right. You're probably right. Power should not be centralized that much, because you're going to attract all the nasty monkeys.
Hmm.
That is a huge magnet to the monkey problem, is having this enormous apparatus of power. So I absolutely 100% agree with you that having that, the existence of that, the United States government, the most powerful, wealthy thing that has ever existed in the history of mankind, is bad. Just the existence of it, even if it was populated by Jesus Christ and all of his clones, it would be bad, because eventually Jesus Christ and all of his clones are going to die, and you still have this enormous bureaucracy with all that power. So, yes, we agree on that. This is bad, and something else, with anything else basically smaller, would be better. And I think it's basically what you're saying. You're saying, I can't exactly articulate what exactly it would look like, but it would be smaller than this. And I think that's what sort of emotionally you're trying to articulate, is that the existence of this big thing is the problem, right?
Not just smaller, Stuart, but you would have the ability to update quicker, right? So
Right.
as a society with all of these little micro adjustments, which are really price signals, right? Like this is what I like, this is what I don't like. And people that provide things that customers don't like, they get punished by the market. People that provide things that the monkeys like, they win. They're the winners, right? Whereas government picks winners and losers and forces people to do stuff they don't want to do. And there's no update mechanism. Like I said, like there's just not a way for all the pissed off people to actually change the government. It's just going to say, fuck you. We have all the power. We can shoot you. Go pound sand.
So basically, I think what if I was to answer my own question that I proposed to you, what would be the architecture of it? It would basically be like just state governments, no federal government. So if I could snap my fingers and implement what I think you're talking about, the federal government would cease to exist, and suddenly you would just have state governments all interacting with each other in a free market.
That would be
Is that,
better. That
or
would be
would it be
better.
smaller? Would it be states, or would it be cities?
It would vary. I think it depends on the location, because you have to understand that like the United States or any geographical area is not homogenous, right? The people are culturally not homogenous. The terrain is not homogenous. The natural resources of the terrain are not homogenous, right? And this is why people trade. Because, for example, there's some areas that are very rich in oil, like Texas, for example. And it's like, but guess what? Texas can't consume all the oil. They have to trade with somebody else. So there's somebody farther away that is not oil rich that needs to trade with people in tech. Like these things naturally happen. Like the supply and demand dictates how resources move around, how people move around, and it self adjusts and self corrects. And that's the thing I'm trying to say, is that like these updates happen so much fucking quicker if you just get out of the
Yeah.
way, let the trades happen, and let people self organize. That sort of scale will change. Like some of it will be very, very small. I think in rural communities, it's going to be super small. In other areas where people like to congregate naturally, not forced the way the government's crammed everyone into cities, but it's going to change. It's not a one size fits all thing, and people will be able to choose and update quicker. And that's the thing, is the feature that I'm seeing with this. And maybe I don't have it exactly right, but I'm seeing, like, look, you can pick. Like, if I don't like what they're doing, I can go somewhere else. I'll pay my money to a different provider. We'll all, and it's just that Bayesian weighting, like you always talk about, these tiny, tiny pinpoints that are constantly making these decisions. Those signals happen in a decentralized and natural way that doesn't require force from top down. And I think there's magic to it. And I know there's magic to it. I don't know what the scope of that is, or the upper bound of it is. I'm trying to explore that. But I think it's better than what we have now. Like, this thing obviously doesn't fucking work. So
Have
why
you
not try it?
read have you read the tech bro sort of culture? I think it was Peter Thiel or somebody like that, one of those tech bros, where he thinks the solution is sort of city states that are sort of governed by tech bro companies, and
Fuck Peter
all
Thiel.
the city states interact with each other. That's his lunatic idea of like the utopia,
Fuck Peter
right?
Thiel.
And the currency, the Bitcoin currency or whatever. That is sort of, that's how you keep people under control. That's how you control the monkeys. With the what they have in China. Was it
Social credit score. Yeah, that's
social
where it's
credit
coming.
scores? Yeah, yeah.
Palantir is just laying the ground for a social credit score. It's coming.
Right. But this addresses the monkey problem that we're talking about. I mean, obviously, it doesn't address the monkey problem for the shitheads at the top, because they're still freaking monkeys and they're still
For
going to do
sure.
monkey shit. It just protects them from all the other monkeys.
Correct.
From the monkeys below them, so they can do whatever they want. That's basically what they're doing. They're saying, we're going to enslave you so we can do whatever we want, so we can not have to worry about this monkey problem, because they're all constantly worried about the monkey problem,
Yeah,
right?
dude, we're tracking, man, because I think you're a primatologist. Like, you understand this stuff. Is it evolutionary history of the apes? Because there'd be one dude at the top, is the alpha, and he would be the most strong, vicious, ruthless dude that sort of, took care of everyone else in his tribe. But if he was being too much of an asshole, two or three would gang up on him and jump him and rip him to fucking shreds. And
Every time, if he is unjust on a long enough timeline, the other monkeys will kill him.
exactly.
And there has to be that balance between power and justice.
Right. And
And if
so
you
the
don't
problem
have
with
that,
government, though, the problem with government is that they've got their own monkey army to act as a shield now. So they can act with impunity like complete
right,
fucking assholes. And then
right.
we can't do anything about it. And that lack of the ability to take out the alpha because of that government apparatus, that's unnatural. That's not natural to the way we've evolved.
That is a very good sort of summary of the problem. And the problem is because of scale. If there wasn't that scale, we wouldn't have this problem. If it was just 100 monkeys instead of 300 million monkeys, that monkey would be dead a long time ago. A long time ago, he would be dead.
Right.
So,
So here's my pitch, Stuart. Is like I mentioned, that allowing people to be free allows for an expansion and contraction naturally of social groups. Right. So you asked about the cities. Like, I think that's unnatural. That's completely unnatural and unhealthy. And it's absolutely opposite of how we evolved. And I think if people were left free to sort this stuff out, there would be natural boundaries that emerge. There'd be natural cultures and communities that emerge. And some might be bigger, some might be smaller. I don't think it's homogenous. I think human beings are going to make different choices. They're going to gather in groups based on all sorts of different criteria. And I think the government not allowing that to happen actually causes more problems than it solves.
well, you still got. I'm starting to repeat myself. But even if that happened naturally, you still have the monkey problem, because you're going to have a group of monkeys that develops a better technology or something no other monkey can deal with. Like we think right now that some governments on Earth have like secret technology. There's all this. I mean, I have no idea if any of that's true. But let's say it is. Let's say that in the 70s developed some sort of anti-grav technology, and they have the ability to do some unnatural shit. And that's why every president, when they get into office, suddenly their whole attitude changed, because they meet with somebody and says, okay, we're going to show you something. You know what? You're going to do exactly what I tell you to do. And he's like, okay, because they have something you cannot deal with. And that's going to happen if you get enough monkeys interacting. If you have it scale, it's going to happen faster. The larger the monkey population, if you have 800, it might happen over 1,000 years. If you have 8 billion monkeys all doing that, it's going to happen a lot faster. That's the scaling problem. You're gonna have that happen, right?
Definitely, and I agree. And I want to get to your thoughts on how to solve the monkey problem. I know you thought about it more than I have. I completely agree that it exists. One of the mitigating factors of markets, though, is that they tend to provide for massive upward mobility. If you just get out of the way, people's standard of living goes through the roof. Opportunities are boundless, right? Markets, free exchange, all of these things, particularly without the government taking 50, 60% of your earnings, people's material condition improves, and that makes monkeys happy. Like, monkeys are selfish creatures. We want to improve. We want to gather more resources because resources mean you can get a better mate. All the things. I think having that as an incentive makes monkeys more peaceful. There's that old adage, like, if goods don't cross borders, tanks will. Like, we want to trade, we want to make that exchange with our other monkeys, and it's better for us to engage in a mutual trade where we both feel like we've made out better for it, than having government interfere and tweak markets and that sort of thing, and introduce artificial scarcity by, for example, wasting resources, committing fraud, giving, crony capitalism, bombing the shit out of other countries for profit, incarcerating the other monkeys for profit. I think that the allocation of resources in capitalism in a free market is much superior to what we're seeing in these mixed markets and socialist economies.
Have you ever heard the economic principle of a positional good?
Uh, I'm not sure I have. Tell me about it.
A positional good has value only because it's only possessed by the individual and by nobody else. That's the only value it has. So if you have the rarest stamp in the world, nobody, it's one of a kind. That's a positional good. The only reason that has value is because nobody else has it. That, as you know, is an enormously powerful market force, especially when you get up to the elite classes when they get bored and need novelty. Positional goods become sort of the elite economy. That's why you have things like Epstein.
Right,
He had a
right.
positional good. He could provide something that nobody else had. So once you get up to the top of the dominance hierarchy, it's basically an economy of positional goods because there's a scarcity of it and nobody else can have it except you. And that's what creates the elite class, is this economy of positional goods. So you can't solve that problem without changing monkeys, because no matter what, you're going to have that psychology functioning at the top of the dominance hierarchy. I want this because nobody else, I want this simply because I want nobody else to have it. And I feel like a bigger monkey if everybody else is. That's another thing. A lot of very wealthy people feel more powerful if everybody else is poor. That's sort of the communist psychology. I feel like I'm a big monkey if everybody else is a poor monkey, right? It's this sort of positional good. I have all these things that they want and they can't have them. So, I'm a big, monkey kind of thing. So, I want to say that, I see what you're saying, and I think I have. I agree with you in principle. I mean, I don't think there's any way to disagree in this in principle and have a good faith conversation. I mean, we need to have smaller nodes of power because we see what happens when we don't. Saw what happened all through human history if we don't. I mean, every single time you create these enormous magnets of power, you get this problem. Julius Caesar, every single Egyptian pharaoh said he was a god. Caesar said he was a god. Genghis Khan. I mean, every time it happens, it's the same monkey problem. So, I think acknowledging the monkey problem and not allowing it to become sort of through generations, people forget that we have a monkey problem. I think this needs to be kept alive. I think that's a big part of it, is that people forget that this problem repeats over and over again. The whole history repeats itself. And if you don't know history, blah, blah, blah. If you talk to anybody, they probably don't know this as a primary feature of human history. It always happens. There is no example where it doesn't happen. It's not like there was some happy, peaceful civilization where this didn't happen. It always happens. And that is the human condition. That is human history. So this is no surprise. The people in government right now aren't the fault. It's not their fault. It is the fault of the monkey problem, and it's going to happen. If it wasn't them, if it wasn't Trump, it'd be somebody else. This is why I have such a hard time getting so mad like you do at Trump. Yeah, I mean, whatever he did with Epstein, that's horrible. But when you step back and you look at it, creating this situation is going to bring Trumps and Epsteins and all this shit. If it wasn't them, it'd be somebody else. You
Yeah, and it's
know,
getting worse.
so
This is my problem. Is it's getting worse with
of
every
course it is,
successful?
because we're
It's just like,
catching them. The monkeys are getting angry. The monkeys are seeing the injustice, so the head monkeys have to figure out what to do. You know, I mean, it's all so obvious to me what's going on. They try to confuse it with all this smoke, but it's the same monkey problem we've always had. It's not like there's no aliens, there's no secret technology, there's no magic. This is just a bunch of monkeys trying to keep the other monkeys from killing them.
yep. And I think that's why they
It's
cycle monkeys in and out at the top.
Yeah,
It's like
you can't be mad.
every
Those monkeys go away. Now you got to try to be mad at the exactly, exactly. You
exactly.
got to
Then
be mad at these monkeys.
you get to sell these people that it's gonna be different. It's
Right.
like Lucy in the fucking football with Charlie
It
Brown.
is.
It's like,
Yeah.
well, JD Vance next time, he's gonna do it for us. And and we're so goddamn dumb that people just keep falling for it over and over again and just completely rejecting the evidence of their eyes and ears. It's just
Right. So eventually you just get mad at the whole system and say the whole thing is bad. And that's where you get to the point you're at, where you said, okay, I'm tired of all of it. It's all bad. It doesn't matter who's in power. All of it's bad. And I generally agree with you. I mean, I don't know how you can't agree with that, seeing what we're seeing today.
so help me fix the monkey problem, man. Because I came at this from an ethical standpoint. I'm a philosophy nerd. I'm very big on what's right and wrong, and I'm very that's what's gotten me to libertarianism. Honestly, is ethical philosophy, and so cool. That's my baseline. People come at it from different ways, but we both agree because we're empiricists that like, okay, yes, there's a monkey problem. So you're way more versed in this than I am. What are your thoughts at least on how you won't fix the monkey problem, but maybe make the monkey problem better? Like maybe
Here's how you fix the Here's how you fix the monkey problem. I don't know I mean, you probably are as familiar with the Roman Empire as most people, and I've read about I've read everything there was to read about the Roman Empire, the source material, all the books. There's a lot of them. I've read all of them. The Roman Empire lasted about 1,000 years. When you look at the Eastern Empire, after the West fell, Carthage or Constantinople and all that. But the Republic, before Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon, what made that successful is they basically took the lessons of the Hellenistic Greeks. They took the lesson of that and they realized that what destroyed that civilization, because a lot of them were the Etruscans were the sort of native people in Italy, and they combined with sort of Greeks that landed in Italy, and they created this new culture and created sort of Rome, and that was the founding of Rome. It's the Etruscans and the sort of these Hellenistic Greeks, the one to get away from what was happening in Greece, like I think it was 700 BC. There was this all sorts of crap happening there. And basically, the thing that they figured out was you have to prioritize the family unit as the most important thing in your entire fucking universe. That is the most important thing because that's what produces the next generation of people. In the Roman Empire, in every single household that was sort of like aristocratic, when you walked in the door to the left was a group of shelves. And on the shelves were busts of your ancestors. And every single time you would come in, you'd have to bow to your ancestors. And every male child was taught your ancestor, like Brutus, the guy who stabbed Julius Caesar. Every time he walked in the door from the age 1 until 18, he had to bow to his ancestor and he had to recite sort of the history of that man's life. And his parents told him, if something like that happens again, because Brutus's ancestor is the one that killed the tyrant king and then created Rome. If that ever happens again, that's your job, is to kill the tyrant. You are the descendant of this man, so that is your purpose in life. You have to keep that alive. You have to keep that chain. That's what I was trying to explain to you before. This pride and duty that is handed forward transgenerationally. Keep that fire alive in your head. We have to train these children. If we want our civilization to function, we have to train these children how we want it to function. Right? And we have to very intentionally train these little fuckers how to behave and not divorce, not abuse them, not create pathology. We have to create strong, intelligent people who have one goal to reduce the monkey problem, which that was Brutus's one goal. This monkey problem is going to come around again. It's going to happen. I mean, in Brutus's time, it was like 700 years before it had happened. Every generation had been teaching him until Brutus, and Brutus was the one, the guy that had to do it. He had to stab Caesar in the Senate. That's how you do it. You have to realize that it's the family, it's the husband and wife, it's teaching the children, and everybody has to want it and agree. But again, that's a scale problem. If you got 300 million people, you're going to have little groups of people that are going to abuse children and get divorced and create little monsters. That is really the root of it, is not allowing people to create cultures and little hives that are going to grow into malignancy. You have to be able to spot that and stop it before it takes root. That is what destroyed the Roman Empire, is they started allowing, they conquered and pissed off the entire region. They started letting Gauls just become part of the Senate. After Julius Caesar had spent 10 years slaughtering 1 million Gauls, then they started letting them in the Senate. Those Gauls didn't forget. They taught their children, we're going to wait. I think the Japanese are doing that. You think they've forgotten about Hiroshima? They haven't
No.
fucking forgotten, dude. That shit lasts. And, you don't have to be a fucking genius to understand human psychology like this. I mean, you don't have to be Freud. This is pretty obvious shit. By destroying children before they reach puberty, by parents getting divorced, and these children having no meaning in their life. They don't know why they're here. They have no idea what's going on. We teach them the capitals of the United States and say, okay, go do something. That's the problem, is that we have totally removed meaning from these children's lives. It used to be every single child, from the time he had the capacity to understand language, he knew exactly why he was there. You're here to become a blacksmith. And every day you're going to come with me to my shop and I'm going to teach you how to do it. When I die, you're going to do this. Today, the children have no idea. What do you want to be with your grow up? They're like, I don't know. They have no idea what to do.
Well,
I don't
and
blame them.
and they're being actively corrupted, right? I think we can agree, like through
Yeah,
social media,
it's
through like
intentionally.
it is pornography, all these sorts of things. They're intentionally trying to destroy these children, man. Like that's a real thing. The public schools, God, everything they were taught in public schools is all backwards. And yeah, of course, they come out devoid of meaning, and we're getting too rich as a society too. I think too affluent, and there's not enough not enough struggle.
Hardship.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I think that's where you get neurotic, right? You get nihilistic, and you get like, well, where's my meaning? Like I've got so much material excess, and I think that's like we talked about with the Epstein stuff. Like when you get so much material success, novelty, our dopamine circuitry gets all fucked up, and we're not pulling against like the necessities of like surviving. And now we're in this sort of weird existential, fog where everyone's like trying to looking for meaning, and they're trying to find, they're basically quelling all of that angst with like just dopamine chasing, just pablum, just sugary, just garbage that they're ingesting physically and metaphysically, and that's like a real problem. Like I don't know how we continue our trajectory of increasing material abundance without continuing to destroy people.
Well, you have to return to a more close interface with nature. I mean, we've reduced predation. We're not being hunted every time we step out the front door, which is what human beings used to be. Every time you stepped out the front door, something was hunting you. So you had to be, you had to have your shit together, right? So, but there's none of that anymore. But just having a closer interface with nature solves a lot of our spiritual problems, because that's where the spiritual thing comes from, is from nature. So by isolating us from nature, that just compounds the problem. And then you create these broken families and broken home and these fucked up little kids, and they're going to grow into fuck up adults. They're going to want to kill everybody. I say that, to me, it's not complicated. When I grew up, I grew up Southern Baptist, and I think I came in sort of the end, at the tail end of where it used to function. It just wasn't really functioning anymore, but it was sort of an echo of what it used to be. But I remember hearing about all this. The most important thing is traditional family. The most important thing is don't lie. The most important thing is, have honesty and honor with everybody, and everything you say. All these ideas were sort of like, echoes of a time when these things functioned. But they weren't functioning. But when I was a kid, so I looked around, I'm like, all of you are having sex with your secretaries. What are you talking, all of you are getting divorced. So I'm not really paying attention to you, because it doesn't look like what you're saying is working. But I think that was also sort of intentional. I think that those traditional cultural standards were intentionally attacked from the media. From I think there was a lot of that going on in Hollywood, a lot of that going on through the music industry, trying to sort of attack those ideas and to make them seem sort of square. That's
Yep.
square. It was intentional, and the reason they did it is because people that don't have that sort of community and tradition, and they're weak. It makes people weak. People that are just alone and angry, and they think they're powerful because they have money or they can have sex. You're not a strong person. Strength is in an entire community of people all together, synchronized, doing one thing. We all agree, and if something happens, we all react together. It doesn't matter if one person is angry and you go do something. Yeah, you're gonna might whatever you do, but it's not gonna really change anything. It's not going to change anybody for at the top of the hierarchy, right? It's not going to change anything about their position. The only thing that changes anything about their position is cultural power is synchronized groups of people all thinking and feeling and behaving as one. And the more people you have, the more power that is. That's why cults are so popular. It's because it taps into that. This feeling that I'm weak, I don't have a group. So let's get like a couple of thousand people together, and now we're strong and we feel like strong monkeys. But they just treat you like you're a bunch of psychos, and they burn Waco to the ground. Right? I mean, they always paint you as a bunch of psychopaths that believe psycho shit, and they just come kill you. Right? So, yeah, I mean, how do you solve the monkey problem? You get back to the Roman Republic, where they sort of nailed it for like 500 years. They had an extraordinarily high functioning civilization before Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon. And everybody was taught their role. Everybody had a meaning in life. Everybody felt that they understood what was going on, and they were all working to keep this thing going. They were all working for the glory of Rome, the people and Senate of Rome, and all. I mean, and this is what bothers me when you shit all over patriotism. Patriotism, the way it is today, is stupid because what we have isn't worthy of worship or glory. But the only way you can have something like the people in Senate of Rome is by everybody involved worshiping that. That is what we're all trying to maintain, is this thing. Together we're doing it. And that's really what patriotism should be. It's not just the adults, you're teaching your children. You pass that fire forward, right?
I get it. I disagree. Like I think that
What do you disagree with?
the fact that we are sort of worshiping the government essentially. Like there's this there's
I
a,
just said I don't like that. The
I
government sucks.
I know, and I think that the scale, maybe it's a scale issue too, is that I think that I think there's a nugget in there, right? I think it's really important, which is the collective, because I think oftentimes libertarians are accused of being too individualistic. It's all about the individual, and it's like, well, that's important. I think we need to be free, but making a free choice to participate in the community, right? Your local neighborhood, your family, your church, whatever you're a part of, like that's important. I think you should be proud of that. Meaning, like, not pride because of like an accident of birth, like patriotism claims, like because you happen to be fall out of your mom within these regional boundaries, you're suddenly supposed to, bow to the eagle and put your hand over your heart and all that other bullshit. It's about because of I'm proud because of what I'm a part of, my
Right.
contributions as part of my community, right?
You
I think
should not have patriotism for something that is no longer functional. But if something is the most functional civilization that has ever existed, yeah, you should be patriotic about that. You should teach your children, this is how we do it. This is what you're going to have to do to keep it going. And for 500 years, I mean, America is 250 years old. We're halfway there. We're already fucking going downhill. We're already basically done.
it's already over.
500 years. The Roman Republic had this amazing civilization. And the reason is because of what I said. Every single member of that society, they would kill you. They would kill you if you allowed your family to fall apart and your children to become, parasites. And, they would just basically kill you. They would not allow that to exist. And these days, we just, oh, you're free. You're free to do it. You're free to live in a trailer park, and to have sex with your children. It's a free country. How does that's all I hear all the time. Well, how does what I do affect you? Why do you care what I do in the privacy of my own home? I fucking care because I'm not a moron, because all of us affect each other. We're all living together in this place, and you're going to raise children that are going to be psychos if you don't have some standard of behavior. If you don't have some standard of normative behavior where you do not harm at least don't harm your children, at least don't like torture them or sexually abuse them so they grow up to be these, whatever these people are that we see today with the freaking shit through their face and the yellow, purple hair or whatever. Yes, that affects me. That affects my children that have to go to school with these psychos. So I am a big fan of freedom, but there has to be some sort of standard that we enforce. And it used to be normal before.
Yeah, we had social enforcement. It was everybody knew
Yes,
how to fucking act right, and there was
right.
social
But and
pressure.
if you didn't, a man that got divorced, he was cast out. I wouldn't do business with you. I don't trust you. You betrayed your family. Why would I do business with you? That was just normal. A boy who was born outside of wedlock, you're a bastard. I'm not got anything to do with you. You weren't raised in a family. So 99 times out of 100, you're going to be a fucked up adult because you don't have a family, right? I mean, these used to be just common sense things. And we act like it's some sort of, you're what they call you're a fascist if you want to like try to enforce traditional constraints on, family behavior. No. The monkey problem is minimized by traditional constraints on family behavior. I don't think there's any way to argue that. And people that do are either, you know, selves the result of this problem, or they have perverse incentives and they're psychos and they're trying to convince you, yeah, you can be gay, you can do whatever you want. It doesn't affect anybody else. Why do they care if you're, having sex with the 6-year-olds? Not their problem. I'm like, what world are you living on? I've never actually spoken to another human being who thought that way, but I've seen them speak. I've seen them. I don't understand why everybody's not just, I mean, isn't this obvious to everybody? You can't have a civilization where you have people abusing children and families falling apart. I don't understand why that's controversial. It used to just be normal. And now we're acting like it's a question.
Well,
Maybe we can do it this. No, you can't.
and
You
this is where
can't.
I think government falls apart. Is that I think people have conflated the idea of social enforcement with legal enforcement, right? There's some things that we agree. Like if you initiate force against a child, you sexually abuse a child, you physically abuse or your neighbor, you punch him in the face. Like there should be legal consequences like that. There should be force applied against you for doing that, right? But I think that
If you sexually abuse a child, in my opinion, it should be immediate death. I think that is the strength.
I didn't specify what the outcome was.
The signal needs to be real clear to everybody involved. If you abuse a child sexually, instant death. I'm a fan. I don't know if you've seen this online. I think Elon needs to build a space elevator. Just load the fucker in it. You have lost the right to be on planet Earth, and just launch your ass into the fucking space. I don't think that there could be I don't think there is anything that the strongest signal we can send. If you sexually abuse children, you are harming that person that's going to grow up. And most of the time, they're going to grow up to be people that aren't going to be happy. They're going to have sexual problems and they're going to cause problems in our society.
Well, you get no argument from me because I was somebody who was sexually abused and physically abused growing up, and so you're preaching to the choir there.
I know I am, and I get that, and I somehow I never had any sort of problem like that growing up, and I was a darling little child. I was a towhead little blue-eyed boy. I never had even anything. I mean, I was like, is there something wrong with me? Nobody's even trying to molest me. I mean, and nothing like that happened at all.
Do you want to hear something messed up? You want to hear something messed up? Like I travel, for work a ton internationally, and when I go to Japan, I learn various things about that society. That is a wild society. There's a phrase, there's a saying amongst Japanese girls. It's like, if you haven't been molested on a public transit, like what are you, ugly? Like that's literally a thing. Like it's so common, it's so prevalent to molest young girls, like schoolgirls.
Really, in Japan?
In Japan, yes. It is a gross society, man. Like the sexual perversion in Japan is off the charts. Like it is shocking to me. It's so crazy because I've been to Japan a bunch of times. The first time you go, you're dazzled by all the lights and all the amazing food. Like everything there is just amazing. But every time you go, you sort of peel back a layer of that society until you realize that there's actually a very, very disgusting culture at the base level.
All right. Let's change the subject to something a little more cheerful.
Okay.
Let me tell you the story about the trash detail in Haiti, and then I got to go. Okay, I wanted to tell you this story because it's actually sort of it really sort of
Highlights the monkey problem.
it sort of bookends this conversation. Okay, we're talking about the monkey problem and what happened to me in Haiti. So in 1995, I was deployed to Haiti with a UN mission with the 82nd Airborne for 6 months. Um, One day they come to us and say, "Hey, Stuart, go out to the dump pile and grab a big stick." I'm like, "Why do I need a big stick? Just go get a big stick." All right. So I go over there and I get a stick. They're like, "All right, you're going to get on this truck because the army's decided we're not going to give the Haitians, the starving Haitians, our mess hall trash anymore. So what we're going to do is we're going to load it up on deuce and a halves, 3 deuce and a halves. We're going to drive outside of Port-au-Prince into the country and we're going to burn it because they're developing dependency upon us because we're throwing away all our mess hall trash and we don't want to develop this dependency. So we're going to burn it." Okay. So I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm 19 years old. So I'm like, whatever. So I get on the back of this deuce and a half with a steaming pile of freaking mess hall trash in 120-degree weather. It was wonderful. So we drive out of the city, and the smell of this attracts. So there's thousands of Haitians starving in the hills outside Port-au-Prince. The smell attracts them. So all of a sudden, the hills start these naked Haitians, butt naked, deranged, starving. Haitians start chasing after the deuce and a halves, right? So eventually we have hundreds chasing us and they're trying to climb up on the trucks. And I said, "Oh, this is why I need the stick." So I start beating these people up, right? So up ahead, we see sort of a bunch of Humvees, and they have a Constantino area off about 50 yards. They've Constantinoed off this area, and surrounding them are at least 2 or 3,000 Haitians, all naked, all screaming, wanting the trash. Because we're not the only ones. They had already dumped an enormous pile of trash. It was like 3 stories high. We're the last run. So we arrive, and these Haitians are going crazy. We dump all the trash into the pile. The deuces have to leave, and they hand us rifles and say, "Okay, this might go bad. Here's a rifle." I'm like, "What do you mean? There's like 10 of us. What are we gonna do?" So the major and his interpreter, who's in charge of this butt fucked situation, they decide they're gonna say, "Okay, we're gonna let you have the trash. We're not gonna burn it. All right, just calm down. But you gotta let us get out of the way." So the interpreter gets on the bullhorn and says, "What did I say?" He translates into Creole. "Okay, we're gonna get out of the way, and you can have all the trash. Just calm down." The major comes over to me and some other guy. He goes, "I want you guys to grab the concertina wire and run in opposite directions." And I'm like, "You want me to do what?" That doesn't sound like a good idea at all. He goes, "Just do it, soldier." I'm like, "All right, I'll do it." Oh, I'll never forget this. I'm standing there with my freaking M16 strapped to my back, looking at this guy about to blow the bullhorn. He blows the bullhorn, and I'm getting ready to run with the The second he blows the bullhorn, all the Haitians come over the wire. 3,000 Haitians come over the concertina wire and they hit this pile of trash, and all of a sudden it's black like night because the 10 billion flies in that trash have flown up into the air. Right. So I dive under a Humvee and I'm watching this shit with my rifle. Right. I'm like under the Humvee watching it. These Haitians start throwing this trash out to their buddies who are taking off, right? They got a whole system. They got like an assembly line. But then they start fighting over the trash and they break out the machetes and they start killing each other. Like there's little kids. I saw this little kid get his arm chopped off, and then this lady picks it up. She's eating the little kid. And the kid's still alive. He runs off, and this all happened in about 5 minutes, and then they're gone. It's like they were never there. Limbs and bodies, about, I guess, 30. Limbs and bodies everywhere, and all the trash is gone. It was the most fucked up thing. And the worst thing about it is when I crawled out from under the Humvee, the major was gone. He got in that Humvee and hauled ass and left us all there. He abandoned all of us to these weirdos and just left.
I don't
You know
blame you.
what? I got back to the base. Nobody said anything. There was no report. Nobody even ever asked me about it. The little kid that went on there with me was like this little like young guy. I guess he was my age, but he seemed a lot younger. He was traumatized for the rest of the time. He was like sitting in his bunk with his freaking, totally PTSD'd out about this experience. So the existence of Haiti is a crime against humanity. I lived there for 6 months. The existence of that place is a crime against humanity. I want everybody watching this to know that. There are more millionaires that live in Haiti than any other South American country in Mexico, Central America, South America, anywhere. There's more millionaires that live in Haiti. What I was talking about. They love having all the poor people around. It's that positional good psychology. And I'm telling you, Haiti is a major hub for criminal behavior in this hemisphere, probably the world. It is a really fucked up place. Really, really, really. So that's my Haiti story.
Well, I'm canceling my travel plans now, Stuart. Hopefully the tickets are refundable.
I tell you what, man, I went to Club Med. They sent us there's a Club Med in Haiti. They sent us to Club Med for 2 weeks. And it is honestly the nicest place I've ever stayed in my life. It was amazing. All the food and the alcohol was free. I could drink as much as I wanted. The first night I got there, I drank 15 bottles of wine by myself.
Jeez.
I'll never forget. They had these floor-to-ceiling blinds on the doors of the hotel rooms. There was no glass. It was these giant shutters that opened up on the beach. So I drank like 15 bottles. I'd been there 5 months, right? So I didn't have any alcohol. So as soon as I got there, I drank all this wine. I was so drunk. I go out into the beach at night, into the water, and I'm laying there, looking at the moon, drunk in the ocean, so beautiful and everything. And suddenly I start feeling this stinging feeling all over my body. And I'm butt naked, by the way. I'm completely nude.
Of course, I assumed that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I thought that would be obvious, but I wanted to say it. So I'm like, holy shit. So I get out of the water and I sprint up the beach as fast as I can, jump back through my window, and I look down, I got welts all over me. I got swam into a pool of jellyfish, right? So I'm in the shower and I'm like, oh my God, I got all these, I still have scars all over my arms from it. Suddenly my door is kicked down to my hotel room. And I open the door to my shower, and there's 4 guys with AK-47s pointed at me. Apparently, Club Med is guarded by, militia. And they saw me sprint up the beach and thought I was somebody infiltrating. So they
Oh
kicked
my
down my
God.
freaking door. So Haiti was a trip, man. It was
Did
a
you
trip.
ask them to pee on you though?
No, I said, I need help. I need help. Please, I need help. So they take me to the guy who runs the hotel. His name was Jean-Claude Philippe. He was a French guy, white guy, and he was very, very gay. And I was still naked. I had a towel around me, but I was still naked. He starts hitting on me. Oh, I guess the lotion I can rub on you, it'll feel very nice. It'll feel
Yeah.
very, yeah. It was a whole night. It was a whole thing.
That might be the best story that's ever been on the show. That was clearly the best story that's ever been on the podcast, man. So
Well,
congratulations.
Army stories. I never went into real combat, but I tell you what, I can't imagine if I did the stories I would have. I remember all of it. I mean, the time, I'll tell you some other time. I got so many stories. All right, I got to go, Brent. It was great seeing you. Great talking to you, brother. I think maybe we zeroed in on some of these problems, and hopefully in the comments, people can I think the important thing is for people to hear their input. What do you think? What the hell do you think? If you think this problem is solvable, write it down. I'm on X. Just let me know. I'm really interested about people's opinions. Right.
Yeah, me too. Seriously, we're all a giant distributed computational system. So let's all put our nodes together and see what we come up with. I don't think I have it all figured out, but I'm just putting my position forward. So everyone do the same, and appreciate you stopping by, Stuart.
I thank you so much for having me, Brent. I'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, later, man.